Why do locks matter? Why do locks resonate with us the way they do? It's kind of an interesting question, and it's pretty hard to deny. Even if you didn't ever think about picking locks before the workshop weekend, chances are you, like most people, I find locks pretty fascinating. Especially old locks, antique locks. If you ever see things at like the flea market, they're like, oh, come look at this. How old is this from? And the vendor is like, oh, I don't know, I found it in another flea market. But we like old locks, or even old keys, right? How many people have seen locks or keys used in jewelry or decorating before? It's just something that captivates us, and people have this attachment, and they don't always have a good way of describing it, but everyone finds locks kind of neat, I think. And this was really driven home, the question of what locks represent to us. I love this story that was told by a friend of ours, a boy named Schuyler. He used to be with TOOOL on the leadership board. He's now done a lot of other independent projects. But he gave a talk called, Why Do You Lock Your Door? And it was, if you have a chance, write this down, look on YouTube. Why Do You Lock Your Door was a video from the, I guess it was RVASec down in Virginia last year. Schuyler Towne is his name. And he's a real passionate guy. He's a delight to watch. He brings this energy to all of his speeches, and he tells historical tales and the history of different lock mechanisms. And in this talk, towards the end, in fact, in the Q&A, someone said, Schuyler, this is so fascinating, and I hadn't really thought about a lot of this before. Why do locks represent so many things to all of us? And he kind of said the following, and I'm doing my best to do justice to his words, but he described it thusly. He said, I want you to picture a situation, and I'm going to give you a few hypotheticals, and put yourself literally in this situation and think about how you would feel. You're going to meet someone. Maybe you're a college student and the professor for a class you want to take says, yeah, I might be able to fit you in, come to my office at 3 p.m. Or maybe you're going to rent an apartment or a new building space and the landlord says, yeah, meet me at this address, come on in, I'll be there around 11 a.m. Or whatever reason, you're meeting someone somewhere, you're going to someone else's space, and you're supposed to go. You're supposed to meet them there. So let's say you arrive, and there's a door, and it's just hanging open. And you're supposed to be visiting someone there, right? Well, most people, you do it this one. You're like, knock, hello? Are you here? And you kind of walk in, you're like, hello? I wonder if this person's here. Yeah, I'm here. Oh, you're on your way? Okay, fine. Because the door was open, right? It was just, you're supposed to be going somewhere, and there's the door, it's open. We wouldn't think too much about that. You might, as I say, you might stop and kind of knock and be like, oh, I guess this is number 40, right? Yeah, I'm in the right place. But it's an open door. So it means something to us, but you'd probably walk in, I'm guessing. And if that door were closed, just a plain door, no lock or anything on it, again, you'd probably knock, you might take your phone out and call, be like, yeah, are you here? Yeah, you come? I should go right in? You should? All right, well, yeah, I'll sit on the couch. You wait for someone. Now, imagine, a little bit different. Imagine the door is shut and it's locked. And sure enough, you're supposed to be going into this room or building, and you say, hello? Yeah, I got here already. Oh, there's a key, like, under the mat? What would you do then? Probably, I could go in. Well, how far away are you? I'll wait. I'll be outside. I'm going to get some coffee. Because locks kind of mean something. Even though you're on the phone with the person whose building it is, and they're saying, nah, go on in. The locks represent something. And even if that doesn't quite click, I love the way that Schuyler kind of ended. He said, imagine it is an open door, literally hanging open, but there's a lock in it. Now, what you would do, whether you would go in or not or wait outside, that's everyone's own personal flavor. But I'll bet, he said, that door means something different to you than this door did. Even though it was wide open, the fact that there's a lock in it, it means something else in how we treat space and property and where we are versus where is someone else's territory. So locks mean really special things to us, and they resonate with us in a lot of ways. And that's why, at least for us, that's why we find them intriguing, that's why we want to explore them, and that's why we respect them, frankly. whenever you encounter them in your daily lives. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little insight, at least for a few of us, of why we find these little mechanisms so unique. Come on in, come on in. And if any of you are like us, how many people enjoyed puzzles when they were growing up, right? I have so many memories of sitting around the kitchen table with my family as a little kid, taking out the big Milton Bradley puzzles. You know, this wouldn't be a very good puzzle, I guess. It would be probably easy to solve. Anybody know what the name of that painting is? No? Anybody know the artist of that painting?
Magritte.
Yeah, all right. I heard a lot of people say Magritte. Very nice. How many people had like 3D puzzles? You know, I see a lot of hands again. They're fun, right? Or these sort of brain bender metal puzzles. In TOOOL and in the Locksport community, locks are no different than these. We view locks as fun puzzles to be explored. And we trade them and we say, oh my God, I was just in Germany and my buddy, he showed me this, I got an extra one. You want to try this out? It's really hard. You might have to push it this way and try it this way. And at a TOOOL meeting or any other Locksport meeting, that's what you see. You see people just treating locks like puzzles to be dissected and solved. And if you've never thought of them that way, hopefully you will all leave with that in mind after this workshop. Most of all, that's at the heart of what we do. We do this because lockpicking is fun. We think it's intriguing, we think it's enlivening, and it's when you have this real aha kind of moment when it works, we think it's a hoot. And if you come around to other larger conferences, maker fairs and hacker cons and all kind of tech conferences, wherever you see TOOOL or other locksporting groups, you'll see games, you'll see people winning prizes, you'll see people getting fun giveaways and things. So take this knowledge and see if there's any lockpicking activity happening in your area. There's a routine chapter of TOOOL that meets in the Bay Area. There are, like the Maker Fair. Has anyone ever gone to Maker Fair? Oh my God, that's about most of the hands, not all the hands. If you haven't come to a Maker Fair, please seek out these hands-on activity days, which Workshop Weekend is a great example of. Because we think it's a really great thing to not just sit around and watch them stand. There are two very important rules that we should convey when we start out, along with the rule that I said earlier that everyone is welcome at a TOOOL event as long as you're above board and you're not trying to just kind of slip in and say, oh, I'm going to be shady. I mean, you don't see people like that. I don't know what the press or what everyone expected to see when you came here today, given this crazy atmosphere of news coverage, but I see a bunch of smiling faces. I see families with kids. I see everyone just introducing each other. And by the way, my name is Dave, or Brian if you want. You know, we have our nicknames, but everyone knows me as either. But Deviant, Dr. Tran, Mike, Christina. Ask us anything you want. We'll be very open with you about everything, especially these two rules. If you follow these two rules, it is virtually impossible to get yourself in any kind of trouble with this activity. We'll talk a lot about the law later, because people always have law questions, and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. The two golden rules of lockpicking. 1, do not pick locks that you don't own. And we mean that in a pretty restrictive way. Let's say you're a student in a dorm room. Let's say you rent an apartment somewhere, or a townhouse. You might have a key, and you're an authorized user of a lock. But I would guess that in those situations, you would not really be the owner of the lock. Put another way, if you have a lock that stops working, and you have to call a locksmith, are you handing your credit card to the locksmith? If you are not, I think you don't own that lock. So, you do not pick locks that you don't personally own, without, of course, express permission. You have our permission to pick all of these locks here. And going hand in hand with that idea of locks, whether they're on your front door, you say, well, I don't rent, I own. I'm sorry in this real estate market that you own, but even if it is your own lock and you own it, you bought it outright. If it's your own front door, it's probably the lock on which you rely every day. And that's rule 2. Don't pick locks that you rely on for security. It is possible, albeit not likely, but it's possible that picking a lock or manipulating a lock can cause it to behave improperly. It can get stuck, it can even, hopefully not, get damaged. If it's just a practice lock on a table in front of you, you kind of raise your hand and go, hey, TOOOL person with a shirt, something's not right. If it's your own front door, and you were like, oh, I learned this is fun, and then it doesn't turn all the way, and you're like, oh my God, I gotta get to work. You don't want to be in that situation. So, do not pick locks that you don't own without express permission. And do not pick locks on which you rely, unless it's, you know, some kind of emergency, I don't know. If you got no other way, you can't get your door open, I guess you can try to pick it. I wouldn't recommend it. Follow those 2 rules and you're fine. There are fundamentally 3 types or categories of lock opening. And if you understand this, you'll be very well equipped to explain to people, you know, oh, you went to that workshop? I read all about that in this very awful article in the San Francisco, you know, Chronicle. That was a bad thing, wasn't it awful? This is the best kind of summary I can give you when people don't understand Locksport. Why we talk about the 3 kinds of lock opening. Hopefully this will make it a little clearer. There is lock picking. That is the theme of the day. There is what we might call quick and dirty entry. Things like bypassing or physical breaking of the lock or bumping. If anyone's ever heard of using a bump key, we'll talk about that a little bit. And then there's, you know, covert or high-tech kind of entry. Lock picking is what we do. That is what TOOOL members do. That is what lockpick villages are about. Quick and dirty entry is occasionally what a criminal might do. Most of them won't even do that. They'll just break a window. And those high-tech things, you know, that's kind of what spies do, James Bond type stuff. Or maybe a few of us in our professional careers. Some of us do what is called security audit work. And we basically teach companies whether they're doing the right thing. But of these 3 categories, think of it thusly. Lock picking is what TOOOL is happy to educate people about and provide the means. TOOOL provides equipment, TOOOL provides practice locks, TOOOL will give you all the means to enjoy lock picking. Quick and dirty entry, TOOOL will help share knowledge because it's important that you are educated about certain weaknesses that may be in your own home. TOOOL does not provide the means to execute those attacks. We do not sell bump keys, we don't manufacture them, we don't sell bypass tools. So hopefully that makes sense. And the high-tech stuff, some of us, as I say, have knowledge of some of this world because of our professional work, but TOOOL generally shies away from both the knowledge and offering of any means to do high-security attacks. All you're learning today is how to open locks that are little mechanical puzzles in front of you. What criminals might do with a lock, we will tell you how to guard against it, but you won't really have any means or ability when you leave this workshop. And judging from the faces on all the families with kids in this room, none of you came here looking for that knowledge, so we're pleased by that. So yeah, I mean, criminals don't pick locks. Criminals bypass locks. Criminals break things. In the real world, this is a criminal lockpick set, you know? Think of the things that you would learn in a police neighborhood watch kind of workshop. Think of how good is it if I have a door that's narrow and thin and doesn't have big bolts, you know, and screws going into the frame. Don't just buy the best lock you can find, even from our friends at Security Snobs, if other aspects of your house and your life are not that secure. How many people know that big sliding glass doors, if they're not locked, you know, you can lift them. Oh, you can lift them right out of the frame. I mean, how do you think they get installed? So yeah, lock those. Don't just put the bar, you know, like that big bar you put down. Don't just put that and be like, I'm good. No, I mean, talk to locksmiths. Talk to your neighborhood watch association. This is how you prevent real crime. The quick and dirty crime, the bypassing, the breaking, maybe bumping, those are things that you can solve for $10 or just for some common sense. That's what we really, if you're concerned, like, I came to learn about how to keep my stuff safe. Well, I hope we gave you 1 or 2, you know, interesting tips. But much of the Locksport world is kind of outside of that scope. And to kind of conclude, this is the little section we added because we didn't know what people's opinion of us was before we came here today. The mood, we didn't know what it was going to be. We didn't know if we would get swamped by press and community organizers, and we didn't know if there would be people outside, you know. It's California. People wave a banner and march in a circle on a lot of stuff. You know, teaching crime is bad. But if you really, I mean, you've met us today, and we've shown you some photos of various events where we go and organize. This is, you know, this is a lockpicker. This is a competitive lock sporter. And it's people of all ages. It's people of all demographics. It's men and women and families and kids. Just people with an interest in learning and exploring, and just having fun. It's a really neat culture. We are not blind to the fact that it is a weird subculture. But you guys, you're in the home of like weird, interesting culture. You don't need a justification if you're into something different. You just need someone to come and try it with you, and they'll be like, wow, that's really cool. I want to do that too. So yeah, the competitions, if you ever come and really get serious, find us when we're doing this other events. Open, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the attitude we like. We like people trying this. We like people trying to one-up each other. It's all just puzzles. It's all just an excuse to see whose time is faster and who can, I'm first place and I'm second place and I bet you can't get this lock, I bet you I can. That's what Locksport is about. And we think it's a good time. And if you thought it was a good time too, we really, really appreciate you sitting down and getting the whole picture and maybe telling others, telling others what you thought. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you. And now we have a whole half hour.